All right. Speaking of Hannity, the current winner of the look like a fire plug that's worth $1 million goes to Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity, of course, who apparently does his hair by sticking his head in a mason jar every day, wants everyone to believe that the Afghanistan... This is fascinating. Welcome to our second clip. Hannity, the Afghanistan crisis is not over. Wishful thinking. By the way, this is the guy who sports the dude who wanted to stay forever. Who wants to stay forever? Who wants to stay forever? Sean Hannity. All right. Let's see. Sean, you did this. Huh. You said you were going to get us out of Afghanistan. You followed through, and you weren't really supposed to. Everybody's supposed to run on getting us out of Afghanistan. You're not supposed to actually do it. What the hell?
There is an ongoing mass hostage situation in the, I guess, Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan.
There's an ongoing hostage. Okay, I'm sorry. Where do we throw the ringer? Do we throw it in the trash? Hold on. I will say, let's see, select account, jumping in here. The doing of the Instagram thing on the page, it continually resets itself, so I have to reopen it. That's a little annoying. If I have to do that every time we do the show, that's going to be a little... I'm going to begrudgingly do that. It's a little goofy. I might have to find another way to get it in there, if it works at all. We'll see. But anyways, anybody who's watching on that... Hold on, I'll restart that page just because it's being weird. I don't even know quite how to... there we go. Select account. There we go. Back to there. Okay, it's actually still going out, so it just plays a minute to catch up. But yeah, the Islamic Emirate of... You mean like Qatar? Or Dubai? The UAE? I mean, you have friends that go there, Sean. Lots of them.
American soldiers dead, more than 20 injured, more than 100 innocent civilians also killed, many others injured. But yesterday, Joe Biden, he decided to take a victory lap. He congratulated himself on a job well done. Joe Biden's mission accomplished moment. Take a look.
Look, and by the way, if you want to know how badly this is affecting Sean Hannity, Fox News, and their viewership, look at his face when he goes to watch the clip. Like the deflation is just gorgeous.
Well done. Joe Biden's mission accomplished moment. Take a look.
The extraordinary
Womp.
success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals. Now some...
Yeah, that doesn't sound... Do most people take everyone with them on a victory lap? I'm curious. Do all victory laps include the coach, the fans, the people who handled you the award, right? It's a victory. It's a victory lap. I notice you guys on Instagram. Come on, jump in here. This is it chops in and out. It's my first time airing the show on Instagram. Calm yourselves.
Hey, we should have started mass evacuation sooner. And couldn't this have been done in a more orderly manner? I respectfully disagree.
And Joe's chief of staff, Ron Klain, the great puppeteer, he took it a step further, announced that...
Oh, somebody's been to Fiverr. Oh, and come on. Sean, you're a professional. See, this is what happens when a professional has a graphic on screen and they put their hands up. Their hand doesn't disappear just when they put them like here. Like, obviously, there's a limit to how far I can reach. See that? And that's just because I'm in my office and I don't have a big studio like you have. I'm just doing this out of my house, right? But I can still do this without my hand turning to whatever that is, this mush. Secondly, what is the crossfade that's happening here? I mean, I don't mean to room rate this nonsense, but get a graphics department. Secondly, this is not fine. This is Fiverr level bullshit.
Withdrawal could not have gone any smoother. Yes, it could have. Take a look.
Oh, yeah? Yes, it could have?
It's easy to second guess, but let's just be clear. America was in this war for 20 years, and I think any effort to unwind that, any effort to bring our troops out, any effort to end our military presence in Afghanistan was going to be filled with heartbreaking scenes and difficulties. And I think the Biden administration has managed that as well as it could be managed under the circumstances we were placed in.
Like Biden, Ron Klain, really that delusional?
Wait a minute, dummy. You can't just jump in there like that. You can't go, it could have been better. Yeah, or they're saying it couldn't have been better. Yes, it could. And then you play a clip of Ron Klain. Where's your fucking plan, Sean? Buddy, come on. Reach into that fireplug shaped head, that hydrant shaped head of yours. I mean, honestly, if I was you, I would never lay down in the street. Because the second you set your head up, I mean, whiz right on your neck. It's gonna happen. I'm just telling you, especially when you're wearing Trump orange, which you've been doing a lot lately. I'm not the only one noticed that, right? That he's been Trump orange for the last couple of weeks. It says he misses him. It's the only way. It's the only way you can get back to it. But Sean, if you're gonna shit on Ron Klain and say he doesn't have a plan when he has, you might want to actually show your plan. Show your plan. If it's easy, if it could have been done better, it shouldn't be hard, right? It shouldn't be difficult. Put your list up. We should have done this first. We'd have done this. I'd have left out of here. We'd have kept Bagram forever. Oh, that's where my plan falls apart. About leaving while staying.
Is he really this much of an idiot? It appears so. Nothing about that withdrawal being managed well. Nothing, Ron. Not a single thing. If you...
What, does anybody know what the fuck he just said? Sorry, run that by me again. What was that, dum-dum? I want to see this whole chunk coming back. Is anybody... Jesus. Does anyone have a Hannity to English phrase book that they can look at?
As we were placed in.
Like Biden, Ron Klain, really that delusional? Is he really this much of an idiot? It appears so. Nothing about that withdrawal being managed well. Nothing, Ron. Not a single thing. If you're watching, you might want to pass on to your boss that I'm sure is in dreamland about this time. This new ad from Senate Republicans, and it might help jog his ever-failing memory about what...
Okay, so I don't know. He was trying to find his way to airing this clip, and maybe somebody was speaking in his IFB, and like, we're pulling the clip up, John, we're pulling the clip up, and he was just kind of like just jibber-jabbering, filling it so there's no dead air. But that, I mean...
really happened in Afghanistan. Take a look.
Here's what really happened in Afghanistan. And he's going to play an ad, a political ad, and it says political ad up there in case you were wondering, by the Republicans, who, by the way, were why we were still in Afghanistan the last 4 years.
Is the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No. It is.
Yeah, it's not inevitable. It wasn't inevitable. And if you said on July 8th, fuck, oh yeah, it's absolutely inevitable. You think the government would have been stronger? You think the soldiers would have held their ground longer? You don't think it would have actually made it worse? The music is good, though.
The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
This is not just about the overall idea of leaving Afghanistan.
Congratulations, Jake Tapper.
And this is about leaving hastily and ineptly. Secretary Blinken, how did President Biden get this so wrong?
With an
hastily and ineptly by extending the moratorium and the exit date from May 1st to August 31st and still getting out. How did Biden get it so wrong to run on getting out of Afghanistan and actually getting out of Afghanistan? Secretary Blinken, why did the president do what he said he was going to do? The last president said he was going to do this and didn't do it. And isn't that a better plan?
And stronger Taliban that has greater access to weapons and technology that we supplied.
Planes, guns, night vision goggles, the Taliban's new U.S.-made war chest on Reuters. Yeah, did you read the actual article? Did you go down to paragraph 3 of that article like I did and look at the part where the soldiers were throwing thermite grenades into the MRAPs so they can't actually be used anymore, and how the Afghan scrap dealers were angry that they were pulping all of the vehicles?
Despite the president's promise that the withdrawal of American troops would be responsible, deliberate, and safe, the Biden administration is now trying to explain why the U.S. was so caught off guard.
Breaking news, and it's difficult, can confirm that a number of U.S. service members.
By the way, I like at least the graphics for the Wall Street Journal, Kabul airport attack kills 13 U.S. service members. By the way, Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch, owned by which also owns Fox News. I'm sure there's no linkage between them using their stuff in the clips over others. It's not like, what, is there ever a bad time to sell your paper?
Were killed at the Kabul airport.
Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened.
I think that ad is devastating. Take a look at this.
Yeah, I don't actually. I think it's kind of noisy. It rambles a bit. It's not new information. And there's no assertion, by the way, that it would have been any different if we'd had gone through this process last year or the year before or the year before that or the year before that, or that the government or the military was any stronger last year or the year before that or the year before that. So there was no reason why Trump couldn't have left. And if he had a magic plan, why didn't he use it? Because effectively, if he did have that magic plan and nothing changed between the Taliban and the Afghan government and service members died based on the exit, doesn't Trump bear all the responsibility for everyone who was harmed and all that gear being in their hands if he had a magic plan and he didn't use it? Right? If you refused to use your magic plan that would have solved everything, isn't all the bloodshed on you? Right? It would have worked. What was different with the Afghan government this year or last year or the year before that? Is there anything different about how strong the Afghan people felt about their government, or the government, how sound it was? Was it any more sound this year than last year or the year before that? What about the military? Did they not learn the Vulcan nerve pinch? That we were gonna teach them the magic how to win a war technique, but that was going to be later this year. Any of them? Did any of them change in the last 24 months? No? Well, then why did Trump stay in? If nothing changed in 4 years and he had a magic plan to do everything right, why didn't he use it? Because if he actually had that plan, which I would submit he absolutely does not and never did, and it's just like his healthcare plan and his taxes, there was no way it was actually going to be seen by anyone, because in the case of the healthcare plan, it didn't exist. But let's just give the benefit of the doubt that Hannity believes. Hannity believes that Trump had a magic plan. So if he did have the magic plan and circumstances on the ground hadn't changed in 3 years, isn't Trump responsible for every death and every piece of gear left behind if he did not use that magic plan when he could have? Right? Explain it to me. Explain to me how in 2 years Afghanistan has not changed and you have a magic plan. And when you don't use the magic plan and you get voted out and you leave office, you had 4 years to do it. If you did not use your magic plan that could have saved lives and would have gotten us out without anybody knowing, if you didn't use it, then how in the hell are you not responsible for everyone who was killed?
New ad from President Trump's Save America Political Action Committee. Watch this one.
You mean the Political Action Committee he's using money from, not to support Republican candidates, but to pay his golf course fees?
Afghanistan cannot be used as a terrorist base.
That Afghanistan has become Disneyland for terrorists.
Yeah, that's a fact. The Disneyland for terrorists. Yeah, they have to wait in long lines to do anything vicious. It's terrible. The food is really expensive. halfway through, the kid is crying. You don't know if it's for him or for you. Disneyland for terror.
Every contingency.
Total chaos.
It is heartbreaking. It is depressing. It's a failure, and he needs to own that failure.
Bear responsibility for all that's happened.
He did not admit any mistakes. He did not offer any.
But yeah, this is the Trump ad. He played part of this on. I think they played part of it on the OAN interview because he loves that Biden tripped because of his broken ankle healing, and he'd finally gotten out of the boot, and then he was, this. By the way, since then he's been jogging, if you haven't noticed, but that's okay. We'll see Trump play the footage of him walking down the ramp by comparison to show us how you really escalate or descalate.
Of course, he says we're going to continue forward.
He really isn't taking responsibility.
Mr. Biden, you did this. You made the deal with the Taliban.
Sorry, Mr. Biden, you made the deal with the Taliban? Mr. Biden, why would this be in a Trump ad? That's fascinating. I'm excited by that idea. Let's see. Let's see who made the deal with the Taliban. Let's let's see. Who made a deal with the Taliban? Fact check. Did Trump free 5,000 Taliban prisoners during his term? The Trump administration worked to free 5,000 Taliban prisoners. Fact check. True. Here's why. Senator Mitt Romney blamed both the Trump and Biden administrations for the chaotic events that swept Afghanistan after the Taliban took over the country. A terrorist attack in Kabul killed more than 100 people, including 13 U.S. service members. And as the U.S. military worked to evacuate Americans in Afghanistan, Romney, Republican from Utah, made his comments during an August 29th interview with CNN host Jake Tapper. Recognize we're in a position we're in right now because of the terrible decisions made by two administrations. One, the Trump administration negotiating directly with the Taliban. Wait, what? Who made it? Who's negotiating with the Taliban? I heard that these were terrorists. Getting ready to invite them to Camp David. That's true. Opening up a prison of 5,000 Taliban and probably ISIS-K individuals and letting them free, Romney said on CNN's State of the Union. Romney said it's not known whether some of the prisoners released were involved in the airport attack, but the Trump administration decisions led to what you're seeing and the danger that exists at the airport. Well, only because they didn't use the magic plan. They had a magic plan. Mitt Romney, understand that Trump had a magic plan. Ooh, he's a magic plan. The Biden administration is closing. The Biden administration's closing of Bagram Air Force Base also played a role because we weren't going to use it. We were going to get it out through the airport because what kind of an asshole says, well, we could take everyone from the embassy a quarter of a mile down the road that way, or we could to a place with 6 gates in case one of them gets blown up, or we could pack everybody in vehicles and drive them up a 2-lane highway out into the middle of the fucking desert for an hour and 20 minutes, strategically speaking. Let's see. PolitiFact wondered about Romney's claim regarding the release of 5,000 Taliban. Did they wonder? PolitiFact wondered. That's a new assessment. Let's see. Here we go. Hold on. Let me pop this out if you can see this a little bigger. Trump administration agreement with the Taliban happened in 2020. Just in case. And by the way, Trump was bragging about it. This is not something that happened behind closed doors. There's pictures of Pompeo with the leader of the Taliban, the current leader of the Taliban, who was in a Pakistani jail, but Trump got him out. February 29, 2020 agreement between the United States and the Taliban said that the U.S. and its allies would withdraw their military forces within 14 months of the agreement's announcement. That's where the May 1st deadline came from. The deal said the Taliban would not allow groups, including Al-Qaeda, in Afghanistan to threaten the security of the United States and its allies, which is the conditions on the ground, which are impossible to verify. I don't know what kind of an asshole thinks that's actually a condition. It's also called for negotiations between the Taliban and the Afghan government starting March 10th, 2020. Didn't happen. Called for them. Wasn't an enforceable part of it. According to the agreement, up to 5,000 Taliban prisoners and up to 1,000 prisoners, quote, of the other side, whatever that means, considering the other side, I mean, talk about poorly written, loose language. The other side might be the Afghan government having people that, that they had, like the Taliban had prisoners. The Taliban had 1,000 Afghan soldiers taken prisoner, or ISIS guys they hadn't killed, would be released by a specific timeline. The United States commits to completing this goal. It was a commitment. There you go. Committed to completing this goal, meaning being out within 14 months. And if you don't shoot us, we'll leave. Trump negotiated with the Taliban, got 5,000 Taliban out of jail, got the leader of the Taliban out of a Pakistani jail. In exchange, they wouldn't fire on us until we got out of the country. May 1st was the deadline. And now we extended it because we had to get out. We had to process a bunch of people that were on special immigrant visas. But Biden made a deal with the Taliban. Who's this dude? Right.
Consequences of it. Going to hell, Biden.
Tens of thousands of people being left behind.
Tens of thousands of people are being left behind. No. Not. There aren't 10,000 people, tens of thousands of people being left behind, unless the Republican Party would like us to bring in all of the Afghan refugees fleeing Kabul. If you want to get all the Afghan refugees that are fleeing Afghanistan, then the United States is going to take in hundreds of thousands of people. No one is suggesting that, except maybe Tucker Carlson, which is weird.
We're going to stay till we get them all out. We did not.
And by the way, did you notice that? The conflation, tens of thousands of people are being left behind. We're going to stay till we get them all out. The idea being that you've just overlapped. Oh my God, all the Afghans are going to come here.
Everybody out.
Dozens and dozens of U.S. citizens went to the airport and the gates never opened.
Mission hasn't failed yet.
And by the way, when he's doing that, he's listening to Peter Doocy. That's this motherfucker. Look.
If this isn't failure, what does failure look like exactly?
Well, you got out alive. I would consider if something bad had happened to you would be a failure. As a reporter who reported on the Taliban and said they're screaming death to America, but they seem quite friendly. Maybe that factors in somewhere.
But there's to be.
Yeah, I love this. He's actually a doddering fool. Trump insists on the idea that that Biden can't think, so they cut together stuff to make it look like he can't finish a sentence.
It's what Joe Biden calls an extraordinary success. He says it was the right decision, the wise decision, the best decision, unparalleled results. Wow. And then he went on to say, what a magnificent display of public policy. I ask again, if that's success.
I ask again, why are you sniffing so much? I was beginning to, are you snorting the same Adderall and European Sudafed mix that Trump does all the time? Or is that just what happens when you turn orange? It makes you all sniffly.
How do we define failure? Because today Joe Biden took.
Well, failure would be, I would start with not getting 123,000 Americans and allies out. I would define that as failure. Failure would be like a C-17 shot down. Or going past the August 31st date and the Taliban no longer protecting the roadways and stuff in a city of 4.4 million people, and us having to hold down a city that size with a force of 80,000 soldiers, which is what it would take. I would call that a failure. I would call staying in Afghanistan a failure.
Again, zero question.
Melissa on Instagram says, nope, just pure cocaine. I don't know. I don't know that he seems too cheap to spring for cocaine.
He's exhausted from yesterday's yelling at us and lecturing of us, and he apparently wants to move past his Afghan debacle. This crisis is not over. And by the way, the war is not over either. Americans are held hostage right now.
No, they're not. There's no demands from the Taliban for money to release folks. There's not a hostage. I mean, I know they want him to be the next Jimmy Carter, but you got to be careful about that, Sean, because Jimmy Carter created twice as many jobs while he was president than Trump did. Yeah, you heard me right. Go look it up. For the record, Jimmy Carter created twice as many jobs as Donald Trump did in 4 years. Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. I love Jimmy Carter. He's a sweet man. I mean, he spent his post-presidency building houses for the homeless. He's a good guy. But Jimmy Carter created twice as many jobs as Trump did in 4 years. And considering what they think of Jimmy Carter as a president,
behind enemy lines. And even today, the Washington Post reported that 100 U.S. government-sponsored journalists and their families all left behind by Joe Biden in Afghanistan.
okay, opinion. Why would that be an opinion? Okay, Washington Post. Hold on. Post. U.S. Gov left behind own journalists. That'll bring it up. Why would that be an opinion as opposed to a fact? If they left them behind, were they supposed to be the ones to get them out? The opinion. The U.S. government left its own journalists behind in Afghanistan. Well, the U.S. government doesn't have journalists. And do they force journalists out of every country we're not in? Now that U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan is complete, many stories of heroic efforts to save Americans and Afghan allies are pouring out, each describing one facet of the chaos and the dysfunction that plagued the effort to evacuate all of those in Kabul who had placed their trust in the United States. Among the most tragic examples is the story of how the Biden administration left behind more than 100 government-sponsored journalists, plus their families, after putting them through weeks of hell. 100 government-sponsored journalists. The administration was warned early and often about 600 or so employees, contractors, and family members who work for the U.S.-sponsored news organizations under the umbrella of the U.S. Agency for Global Media, a federal agency funded by Congress. They include journalists working for the Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and who have worked in Afghanistan for years at great personal risk. The Taliban has killed 4 RFE-RL journalists since 2016 through suicide bomb attacks, and the company's journalists routinely receive death threats from extremists. Since 2016. Who was president since 2016 up until January? Now the leaders of these organizations say the State Department promised to get their vulnerable people out of the country before the August 31st troop withdrawal deadline, only to later renege on that promise amid the chaos and confusion at the Kabul airport. They describe a harrowing ordeal for these Afghans who were repeatedly turned away by our own troops at the airport gates, and those personal information was handed over to and whose personal information was handed over to the same Taliban fighters they were fleeing from? Well, only if they were given clearance through the gates. But okay, it is disheartening that so many of the professional journalists employed by America-funded news organizations have now been left behind with their families. Democrat from Maryland who worked behind the scenes trying to help them told me these Afghan allies are among the people most endangered at the present moment for the good work they have done over the 2 decades. Urgent attention must now turn to finding the best way to get them to safety. On Sunday, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on CNN that all the groups the U.S. government prioritized for departure made it to the planes, but it's simply not true. According to other official sources I've spoken to, groups that scrambled to save their staffers over the last 3 weeks. I see. So they're the extension of people, and they're trying to get other people out that were related to the organizations. Right. The organization included the American University of Afghanistan, the U.S. Agency for International Development, the National Endowment for Democracy, the Humane Society, and several other civil society organizations that are now facing the worst-case scenario for their people. The Humane Society, all right. U.S. AGM journalists and staffers have every connection a group of potential evacuees could ask for, or could wish for, and their expectations were correspondingly high. After all, the U.S. government had moved heaven and earth to get Afghan journalists from private U.S. news organizations to safety. Surely they assumed it wouldn't be under orders, but they were wrong. The RFE-RL journalists and their families made several independent trips to the airport, often spending long days and nights waiting just outside the gates, but never managed to get inside. The RFE-RL president, Jamie Fly, told her in an interview. Now they are stranded. We have expected the United States government, which helped create the space for journalism and civil society in Afghanistan over the last 20 years, would have tried to do more over the last several weeks to assist journalists who made the decision that it was best for them to leave the country, but they consistently failed to do that. Their initial optimism was rooted in the claim that there were assurances, what they claim were assurances, that the U.S. government employees and contractors, RFE-RL is an independent grantee, whereas VOA is a U.S. government agency, would be taken care of. So the VOA people got out, and the tangential people with the RFE-RL didn't get out because that was the number of the initial number or whatever. They got out all the people they said they were going to get out these people just think they should be included in that number, and they very well may be. But there's a huge difference there. Okay. Would be taken care of. The administration officials deny that any explicit promises were made. On August 23rd, the acting head of USAGM, Kelly Chow, wrote to President Biden thanking him for the ongoing efforts for his national security team, but warning him that the staff still had not managed to get into the airport. On the 25th, a group of 67 lawmakers wrote a private letter to Biden urging him to focus on USAGM employees before it was too late. Several senior administration officials repeatedly reassured RL not to worry. Fly told me, but even top officials couldn't overcome the utter dysfunction and lack of communication between Washington and Kabul. At one point, Fly was on the phone with senior military officials who were trying to admit the group, waiting just outside the gate, but the message simply never got to the soldiers standing at the gate, and the group returned home. USAGM repeatedly, attempted several other bold gambits to get its people out. 2 weeks ago, they secured seats for people on Czech airliners departing Kabul, but the people were turned away at the airport's gates and the planes left without them. Last week, USAGM worked with the State Department to charter 3 planes to bring people to Spain, but before the planes could land in Kabul, the Islamic State attacked the airport and Pentagon canceled all further scheduled charters. So this is not them being left behind because they didn't want to go, but this is going to be about abandonment as opposed to them doing everything they could. The people were there, they left. Then the flights they had to be canceled because suicide bombers. It's Afghanistan.
There are now hundreds and hundreds, maybe more than 1,000 Americans with no way out. And of course,
by the way, these are dual citizenship Afghans who are left behind, quote unquote, and they do have ways out. They're working with them, but any overt way might get them, affect their safety, so it's a tricky situation. But we had a deadline to leave. It was May 1st. We pushed it to August 31st.
We have no update on the exact number or their whereabouts. No
update. Oh, Sean, no update on their exact number and their whereabouts? I'm sorry, they're not telling you so you can put it on the air so that the Taliban and other people related to the Taliban can check U.S. news reports and Reuters and AP and your show to see where the allies that are hiding as we're trying to get them out are? What are you talking about? How is this exemplary of brains at all?
Concrete plan at all.
Why would they tell you the concrete plan to get people out who missed the deadline and were still trying to get out, who might have their lives in danger because of the Taliban? Why would they say their names? Why would they say where they are? Why would they announce the plan to get them out? What are they going to do? Tell them what border crossing they're going to use? What vehicles? Look in the sky for these particular helicopters you can fire at ISIS. Like what? What? How does this make any sense? And I'll tell you how it didn't make it. He knows this. He has to know this. I mean, dogs know this. This is not hard to figure out. But Sean Hannity gets to present this to you as if the federal government does not tell you their plan, the location of, and the names of the people that they're getting out of Afghanistan at this point for their own safety, that means they don't have a plan. And he can't sell this leave no one behind as Biden walks away graphic that he made on Fiverr. He can't use that if they tell where they're going to go, or if he admits that he knows that the U.S. government and the military are not going to tell you who the people are, where they are, and where the fuck they're going.
Rescue them. We have no diplomats on the ground. We have no military on the ground.
Right. We got out of the country. We're using NGOs, private charters, other groups to get people out. But we're not putting more soldiers in harm's way for people that were told to leave in April and didn't.
You're at accounting even of how many Americans are behind enemy lines.
Yeah, why don't we have an accounting? According to the State Department, there's 885 people still in Kabul. Well, 884, 883. Here's their names. 882. Maybe we shouldn't be putting their names on screen. 881. We must be getting people out hand over fist. That number. 700. That was quick. Funny. They are all in that apartment. The apartment building's gone. I see. Well, anyways, the people who are still alive after we listed their names on Sean Hannity's show, they're all going to be leaving via this road, which has now been blown up. We're getting a report that the road out of Kabul that we're going to take, it's been blown up, the whole road. And a lot of these people. Okay, so another 100 people, we don't have to get out. That's fantastic. Who pretends to be this stupid?
This is unforgivable. These Americans have been left behind and abandoned by their president.
No, they haven't. They're finding other ways to get them out because they're there past the deadline. And not all of them want to leave. That's the other factor. There's Americans in Afghanistan who are looking at the poppy trade and going, there might be a spike.
I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. You know, I thought you didn't leave people behind, Joe. You said
Trump left all of them behind. All of them. He had a magic plan. He didn't use it.
Over and over and over again. We don't leave people behind. You said it 2 weeks ago, Joe.
Yeah, he also said everybody who wants to go can go. Every American who wants to get out will get out. And insofar as we know, by the way, and insofar as Sean Hannity knows, that's true. The people that he's complaining about in the other article are Afghans. And I don't think Sean and Tucker especially want those Afghans anywhere near them.
You promised over and over again, in case you forgot, which is probably highly likely. Take a look.
If there are American citizens left, we're going to stay till we get them all out. This town, this state, this country takes care of our own, leaves nobody behind, giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind. That we do.
Yeah, he's talking about the American people, by the way, in the country in terms of economic opportunity. But yeah, whatever, layer it.
Take care of our own. That we leave nobody behind. Help everyone in need. Look out.
Yeah, we're also not flying over the city with helicopters with nets on them, snatching up people who don't want to go. There are Americans in Afghanistan who are choosing to stay for whatever reason. We're not going to forcibly evacuate them. And if they don't want to leave, that's not them being left behind. Ask Kirk Cameron. Watch the Left Behind movies. They're hilarious.
One another. Leave nobody behind. But we will leave no one behind. It's what America's all about. It's about pulling together, leaving nobody behind.
By the way, he's, again, these are clips of him talking about economic opportunity.
Giving hate no safe harbor. And leaving no one behind.
Yep, giving hate no safe harbor. By the way, who voted against the Asian hate crime bill? Jeez.
Even that social fabric that holds a society together. Honesty, decency, hope. Leaving nobody behind.
Joe, you left them behind.
Oh, look at the fiber quality here. Just high quality. Look at that. The gray and stuff. I mean, it's still the same weird little, like, there's a hard line here and this little gray area so that if Sean puts his hand out, it'll look a little, but he just holds still. Doesn't matter. Liar! Liar!
They're behind enemy lines. What are you going to do about it? Just leave them?
They're behind enemy lines. What are you going to do about it? Just leave them behind? Well, no, we're using every other opportunity, but we had a deadline to get out of the country, or it would have meant more soldiers having to go in. We would have had to put 20,000 soldiers in just to hold the city, minimum. I'm saying 80, but that's, to circle Kabul. 4.4 million people, Sean, in that city. Are we going door to door?
Also breaking late last night, a whistleblower providing a transcript of a phone call between Joe Biden and Afghan President Ghani, the guy that fled with millions of dollars. This phone call from July from Reuters, quote, in much of the call, Biden focused on what he called the Afghan government's perception problem.
Yeah. Everybody in the military thought the Afghan government was going to collapse. And last year, so did Trump. And that's why they didn't invite them. They basically undercut them by not inviting them to the peace deal they had with the Taliban. So nobody believed it was going to hold up. And part of a government's strength is that people believe in it. If the Taliban thinks you're going to fall and the military thinks you're going to fall too, that's a perception problem. He can't make you be a good government, but he can. If you have any chance of staying a government, they can talk you into, look, Start acting like it.
I need not tell you the perception around the world and in parts of Afghanistan, I believe, is that things are not going well in terms of the fight against the Taliban, Biden said. And there is a need, whether it's true or not, we all knew it was true. There is a need to project a different picture. Everybody knew it was true. That great.
Yeah, that's true. Last year, year before, the year before that, everybody knew the Afghan government was bullshit and that the military would fall apart as soon as the Taliban started to march. Everybody knew. You're right, Sean. Everybody knew. So why did we stay? Everybody knew it. Why did we stay? I'll tell you why. Because Trump is a nutless coward.
Well-trained Afghan army that Biden was bragging about the same month was...
Well, yeah, you don't go out there and go, man, these guys suck. Reuters. Is it true that the Afghan military sucks? Oh, yeah, I don't even know. I mean, what a bunch of cream puffs. I don't know why the Taliban doesn't take the whole country right now. I mean, I know we're evacuating people right now, and there's a reason for, shoring up at least even the image that they could hold the place, but we all know they can't. And we're going to stick around anyways. We're not really leaving on the 31st. We're going to keep a military base there forever. I mean, isn't that what we're doing? No, that's not what we're doing.
Disintegrating right before the eyes of the world.
Right. So why stay longer? And would saying to the world, the Afghan government is disintegrating right before our eyes, make it better or worse for the people that we were evacuating? You shithead. What is this? What is the strategy here, Sean? What is it?
Not lies, Joe. Perceptions. You're caring about the lying part. Perceptions don't matter. Lives matter.
Oh, perceptions don't matter. All right. Okay. All right. So what about the perception that you had and Tucker Carlson had and Laura Ingraham had and Fox and Friends had, that Trump ran on getting us out of Afghanistan and that he was going to follow through? He was going to be the first one to follow through. He was going to show Obama what time it was by getting us out. What about that perception? Because lives were lost. We lost 64 Americans while Trump was in office. Not in Afghanistan, not to mention the 560,000 Americans that died of COVID, which, by the way, your network asserts was a bioweapon attack from China. And if that was the case, Donald Trump was the president of the United States during the worst bioweapon attack in American history. And his solution was to sell beef to the people who did it.
And anyway, he asked Ghani to lie for him and pretend all is well. You got to tell people everything's going great. So then Joe Biden could take his victory lap.
No, the victory lap is after we left and Ghani was already gone. The perception was, you've got to stand up and be a leader. Otherwise, these people are going to mow. They're already moving through the country fast. We're trying to get the fuck out of here.
Ending America's, quote, longest war. But as President Trump once said, the truth is a force of nature. So here.
Is that what he said? Okay, you're right, Sean. The truth is a force of nature. Trump never had a plan to evacuate. It was all bullshit. He was planning on staying past May 1st. He was going to end up having to put 20 to 30,000 troops in the country by the fall if he'd have won the election. He also never had a health care plan. That was always bullshit. And his taxes will show he's not nearly as rich as he says he is, by like less than $1 billion running through that company regularly. Probably makes about $25 million a year, which is nothing to sneeze at, but isn't a guy worth $6 to $8 billion, which is bullshit. That truth is a force of nature, Sean. The other force of nature is you blowing wind up his ass, giving him a rusty trombone right now, pretending that you don't know this. Deceit. I don't know. Do you back down from liar to deceit? This is getting a little softer.
We are 13 dead American heroes and untold hundreds and hundreds of our fellow.
Why are they heroes, Sean? What makes them heroes? Besides the fact that they served honorably in the military, which I would argue all of our military are heroes, because when you put your life on the line, whether it's taken or whether you're injured, you're still a hero for doing it. The reason they're a hero, even in your estimation, Sean, is that they died during the evacuation. Right? Which you didn't think there should be.
Americans hostile.
What's happening with the sound situation? What's going on with your sound? We hear every other word. I don't know what that is, because it looks good on my end. Trump is broke as hell. It's true, Janiyah. Audio is behind by a half a second. Very strange. All right. That might be a restream issue. Let me check. Let's see. Could be. I'll refocus that page, turn it down or whatever. See on this guy. Hey, checkity one. Let me check a page right here. Thanks for letting me know, guys. I apologize. I don't know what would be causing that. There you go. Yeah, you guys might need to refresh your stuff. I'm going to bring me back. See if it reloads the image. Yeah, I think it's a YouTube issue, perhaps. But I will say that Sean Hannity gets our 5 eggs for the day, one for each. I mean, it looks like his head, so that'll work or whatever. But again, backing down from liar to deceit. What's next? Obfuscation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up to the show. And if you hate the show and you're a troll, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and everybody else who's in the chat room for spreading the show, because no one introduces us to a wider swath of the algorithm than people who hate the show. It's magic. It really is. It's stuff most of us could never do, because there's sort of, what would effectively be a confirmation bias in the algorithm itself when it's only like-minded people gathering. But when the trolls get in here, especially when you guys type things, because I don't know if you realize this, but Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter, they all go, oh, wow, not only are these people watching for a long time, but they're engaging. They're typing stuff. We don't care what they're typing. We just like the fact that they're typing. This is incredible. Bounce this dude all over the place. He's engaging. He'll keep them there watching the ads. This will happen. So just reminding you to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up. Yeah, I think the sound is a thing on YouTube, by the way. You can fix it with a refresh. So hopefully it's all right for everybody. Fixed it as best we could. Here we go.
Is behind enemy lines. A new report from John Solomon.
By the way, he's been doing the behind enemy lines thing for a little over a week now.
At justthenews.com.
Ooh, that was a hard snort.
Behind enemy lines. A new report from John Solomon at justthenews.com. U.S. soldiers involved with the evacuation, they could not believe what was happening. They didn't want to leave a single American behind.
Right. But we had a time limit, and if we stayed past that, it would be open season on everyone, and the government and the military leaders were not willing to do that. Don't get me wrong. There are a shit ton of people who are involved in this whole thing, both in the upper echelon of the military and maybe even boots on the ground, that wanted this to go on forever. But there's a reason why civilian leadership makes those decisions in our country.
We are bleeping abandoning American citizens. An Army colonel assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division wrote Sunday in frustration. One former Special Forces soldier.
Sunday? Are we indeed? Which ones? Because insofar as we know, the ones that wanted to get out got out, and the ones that didn't believe we were actually leaving.
Working with private networks, because Biden wasn't going to do it, and the military to rescue stranded Americans.
Sorry, who he was working with what? Sorry?
Sunday in frustration. One former Special Forces soldier working with private networks, because Biden wasn't going to do it, and the military to rescue stranded Americans texted, quote, "You guys left American citizens at the gate of Kabul airport. 3 empty jets paid for by volunteers were waiting for them. You and I talked on the phone. I told you where they were. Gave you their passport images and my email and my phone number. You left them behind."
Who's this? Sorry. It's Susan Katz, Keating, and John Solomon in Just the News. Okay.
Americans stranded at the gate as empty planes took off. Now nobody's there to help them. Biden has no plan.
As empty planes took off. Wait, what was this?
As empty planes took off.
As empty planes took off.
Behind. Americans stranded at the gate as empty planes took off.
Okay. Yesterday, I read an article by the lovely and talented Diana Falzone about a woman who's an Afghan who was separated from her sister. She got out. Her sister and her mother are still there. She's working to get them out. They got out a little bit later. But the reason she had a problem getting out was because she did not believe we were leaving. A lot of these folks thought the August 31st date was just like the May 1st date, was just like the 2016 date, was just like the 2012 or 2014 dates. That, yeah, we say we're going to leave all the time, but we don't actually do it. So a lot of the folks that were left behind were not left behind by the Biden administration meeting the deadline that they set for themselves. A lot of people were left behind because of all of the decisions previously that made them believe that we weren't going to honor this time. They thought we were going to stay. And when it was obvious we weren't, we were already gone. They always thought we're going to add, oh, they said 31st, but it's not really going to be the 31st. That's how people got left behind. And still the State Department and the administration are working to get people out. Not leaving them, abandoning them, none of that stuff. But we had a date to get out and we met it. If we'd have met the date in May 1st, none of the Afghan translators would have gotten out. There was no plan to get them out from the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, the special immigrant visa program had been hamstrung, sabotaged, destroyed for all practical purposes by the Trump administration, specifically Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. So nonsense. It's nonsense. I feel for the people who are there. I hope we get them out. They have every opportunity. I'm sorry that they were lulled into a false sense of security that we were going to stick around forever because of the decisions of previous presidents. Especially the last four with Donald Trump, who came in running on, we're getting out. And we never got out.